This is WordPress plugins A to Z.
Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. This is a training video from johnoverall.com and WP Plugins A to Z. And today I'm going to be doing a training video on Wordfence as a request, and because the last video I had on it needs to be updated anyway. So of course, what you need to do is, first thing you got to do is you got to go get Wordfence. Now this is a standard task. Most people know how to do it, but just in case, head on over to Plugins, Add New, type in Wordfence up in the top. Now there's two components here, and you might want both components. The reason for that is, one is Wordfence. We'll go ahead and install that one while we chat for a moment. And that's the actual plugin, the Wordfence Assistant. Now this is something you may need, especially if you've got users on your site and keep getting themselves locked out, because you need this tool to unlock everything. And so I always install this tool too. So install that one, and we'll come back to activate that later. So then what you do once Wordfence is installed, hit activate. And once it activates, it's going to ask you a couple of quick questions. First of which is going to be an email address, once it gets around to getting it fully installed. Okay, and so we're going to put an email address in here. Put an email address in there. Don't sign up for their email list unless you want to get it. Agree to their terms of service. You can go read them. You're only giving away your firstborn, and everything after that, hey, it's no big deal. They can collect your data, sell it to all the private entities. The list goes on. You want to use something, you got to agree. If you don't agree, you don't get to use it, and it depends on how badly you want to use it. Anyway, it's a good plugin, so we agree to it. Hit continue, and it takes you and asks you, do you want to buy a premium key? Well, that's up to you. I mean, premium keys, I can't remember what they cost, but unless you're doing a lot of work or a high-end site, you pretty much don't need it. I've been using this thing for several years without a premium key, so we just hit no thanks, and it takes us in there, and it's installed. Then what you got to do is go find it in the menu. It'll be over here under Wordfence, and you're going to have to configure it. The default options are not an option. Go into All Options to configure it up. Hit Expand All up here at the top. Once they're expanded, then what you've got is a list of all the options. And we'll go walk down the options here. First off, you've got the WordPress license key. This is the key you get with the free one. They automatically insert it. Display all the options menu. Display the blocking menu. Display the live traffic menu. You'll want those later. Okay, Wordfence options. Update Wordfence automatically. I tend to use this. It's one of the few plugins I let get automatically updated, just because it saves me some time and it keeps it up to date with secured information. Okay, then you want to choose where the email address is going to be sent to. It's going to choose that email you entered, but if that email was just something you were entering to get through stuff and you wanted real email in there, insert a real email address here. Next item here is, how does Wordfence get the IPs? Now this one here is, this next item here is your, how does Wordfence get IP addresses on sites that hit, people that hit your website or where your website's being hit from. You can go with the standard option to let Wordfence choose the most secured method. It prevents spoofing, works with most sites, or you can opt for one of the others here, PHP built-in remote, X-forwarder, X-real IP. These may be an option if this one isn't working. If you happen to use Cloudflare, you can set it up to use Cloudflare. I use it with the let it figure it out. Next item is detected IPs. It detects your IP address, that whatever computer you happen to be coming from. And this one's kind of important, because what you'll want to do is you'll want to copy that and then click this button here. It says Edit Trusted Proxies. Okay, this here, okay, what this is, once you click that, this is going to be you paste your IP address in here, and your IP is one of the trusted proxies that comes from. Also, you'll want to hang on to that because further on you're going to put that IP in the whitelist. Click the box to hide WordPress version. You can also click a box to disable code execution in the uploads directory, which is someplace code should never be executed, is the uploads directory, and one of the favorite places to hackers to put your stuff. Put their stuff. Pause live dates, updates when window focuses, leave that. Intervals in seconds. This one here is if you're on a slower server, it reduces the traffic on it, but slow scans starts, live traffic and status updates. Just leave it at default. Bypass light speed unless you're using not light speed, that's not a worry. Delete Wordfence tables and data on deactivation. This is a way to clean it out if you're deactivating it. Okay, update dashboard notifications. Updates need plugins. Scan status, this will be that. Email alert preferences. You can have it email you when Wordfence is automatically updated. Not a bad thing to do unless you do this on multiple sites and then you get multiple emails, such as I made the mistake of doing. I'm now down to, if one updates, I'm sure the rest of them will. All the rest of the boxes, email alert on critical, alert on warnings, alert when IP is blocked. Now, these are alerts that pop up. And email alerts. Now, you might want to turn off some of these alerts. You don't want an email every time a IP address is blocked. You might want one on warnings. You might every time someone's locked out, you may or may not want that, because if your site's constantly being attacked and you get people locked out all the time, you'll get dozens of emails. Alert when someone is blocked from logging in using a password found in a breach. Now that's kind of a useful one because there are master password tables out there that people try to use because for some reason people keep using those passwords in that list. Alert when lost password form is used for a valid user. This means if someone figured out a user's name or even just one of your users are redoing their password, you get an alert. Alert when someone with administrator access signs in. Now this is useful if you are the only administrator or if you got a couple of administrators. So this is always a useful thing. Alert when an administrator signs in from a new device or location. You can alert when non-administrator signs in. May or may not be good if you have dozens of members on your site. It could be a pain in the neck with all the emails coming in through. So this is always a good thing. Like it might alert them once, but won't alert you again unless they sign in from a new device or location. So there's ways to help you with that. Alert when there's an increase in attacks on the site. Maximum emails to send per hour. So that's kind of interesting that that's there, meaning that you could be getting dozens of emails per hour. All right, enable email summary. You want to set this to maybe once a month. That's where I have mine because once a week is just overwhelming. We're constantly dealing with these things. Okay, enable activity report. Web application firewall. Well, the firewall is in learning mode right now. We'll come back to this one in a bit, but just leave those as standard. Advanced firewall options. Delay IP and country blocking until after WordPress and plugins have loaded. Now this is, it processes the firewall rules early. So this may or may not be good. Okay, whitelisted IP address to bypass all rules. This is where you paste your IP address again. Okay, whitelisted services. You can whitelist security, Facebook, uptime, status cake, and this is something you'll want to do because sometimes you got lots of traffic on those sites from those. Okay, you can also immediately block IP addresses from specific URLs. It's like you can set up a trap URL, call it theroguestavern.com/trap, and what it would be is a trap for bots and scanners. And immediately when they hit those, they're automatically blocked on your website. It's kind of a useful tool. I've set that up in the past to deal with too many scans on sites, and it usually ends up terminating them really quick. So it's something to look at. You can set up ignored IP addresses, like say for instance you have a standalone scanner from your computer or another computer or some other IP that scans your website on a regular basis for different things. You can whitelist that IP. The rules in here, these are the rules to whitelist through. You'll want to read through them to make sure that they're all good. Okay, and here's where you start setting out some brute force protection. Now, I usually tighten these up from the defaults. The defaults is log out after how many login failures. I usually tighten it up down to 5. I give people 5 chances of failing before they get locked. If they want to reset their password, I bring it down to 3 attempts to reset their password. Because hackers will try first to log in, then they'll try to reset the password, and then they'll log in. You know, you'll want to block them if they're doing it too many times. Count failures over what time period. So what time period are you going to count these failures? Is it 5 failures in 5 minutes, 5 failures in 4 hours, 5 failures in 2 days? You know, what do you want? So I usually set it at about 6 hours of failure time. The amount of time a user is logged out, well, this is up to you. How long do you want to lock someone? I'll lock them for a month. That way you just stay away. Okay, now this one here is kind of tricky. Immediately lock out invalid usernames. The problem with this one, if you enable it, is all it takes is a typo in the username to lock them right out. And typos are pretty common. So you'll want to weigh the pros and cons before you enable this one. You know, you can immediately block the IP of users who try to sign in as specific usernames. Like if you have a set of usernames that you don't want anyone to sign in, you can immediately lock them out here. And again, prevent the use of passwords leaked in data breaches for admins or for all users with published post capability. That's what I would turn it to. Enforce strong passwords. This is a good one. Force all admins and publishers to use strong passwords, or you can force the entire site. Force all members. I try to force all the members to use strong passwords. It's just common practice nowadays. Don't let WordPress reveal valid users and login errors. This is a good one because it helps prevent when they type it in. You know, because WordPress usually had those messages there that said, "Oop, you used the wrong username. Oop, you used the wrong username. Oop, you used the wrong password. Oop, that means the username's right." So you see, you want to stop that. So leave that checked. Prevent users registering admin username if it doesn't exist. Oh, admin. Yeah, the admin username, the old default WordPress name, which you can tell how old a WordPress website is whether or not it has admin in the user list. Prevent discovery of usernames through author-end scans and OEmbed IPI. This prevents them from figuring out all the users on your site. Block IPs who send post requests with a blank user agent and refer. This is a common scanner and hacker tool, so I always block that because there's really no purpose for it. And you can see by, opening that up, getting the information on that. So custom text to show on block pages. I don't put any custom text. I just leave it. They're blocked. They get a white screen. Check password strength on profile update. Absolutely. This way, if they manage to get in or you bring this in after your passwords are created, when it comes time for them to update that, it'll tell, hey, you need to update your password. Okay, rate limiting. This is how much people can get here, visit your website. I immediately block fake Google crawlers because they're one of the worst bots out there. Verified Google crawlers have unlimited access, but if anyone's requests exceed, I usually set it at 60 per minute. That's 1 per second. Then throttle it. If a crawler's page views exceed, now a good crawler, I will let them have 2 pages per second. If a crawler's page is not 404 errors, I will give them, again, 404 errors. I'll give them 60. If human's page, now human should not be cruising through your site faster than 1 page per second. Okay, and if a human's page 404 errors exceed, 30 per minute or 1 every 2 seconds, I throttle them because they're just bouncing way too fast. How long is an IP address blocked when it breaks a rule? This is a good one for you. I usually set it at 12 hours. So decide for yourself. Whitelisted 404 errors. These are common 404 errors for most websites, so you leave those whitelisted. If you have other 404s that you should whitelist, put them in there. Whitelisted URLs, these will appear after the firewall starts into working. Monitor background requests for administrators, website, browser for false positives, front-end website administrative, that's good. Scan options. Schedule WordPress scans. I usually let it scan when it wants to, and I customize the scan. Okay, and once it gives you a standard scan or high sensitivity, I just start from there and I just go down here. Everything that's checked pretty much stays checked, so we'll just read it just to be sure. Misconfigured. How does WordPress scan for publicly accessible? Public accessible. Scan theme files against repository for changes. Scan plugin against repository for changes. Those are it. That's a good one because it scans the files in your themes and the repository and your plugins against the repository to see if they've changed. This one here has actually saved me a couple of times because it caught a change in a plugin that didn't match the repository, and then when I looked at it, it was an actual hack into the plugin, and it saved me from being hacked because oftentimes hackers will get a hack site hacked by a bot. They email home and it takes the hacker a few days to a few weeks to get around to dealing with it because he's got so many on the go. So if you catch it soon enough, you can stop him before he gets too far. Scan for signatures, known. Scan block at backdoors, files malicious. It's pretty much every scan on here you want done. Monitor disk space, scan for unauthorized DNS changes, scan files outside. Now, if you have your WordPress installed in a subdirectory and you have files above that subdirectory, you may want to do this. If you have nothing but a pure WordPress website, it makes no difference whether you check this or not because there's nothing outside of your WordPress installation. So this one here depends on how your file structure is in your particular website. Scan images binary if they're as if they were executable. This one here can get pretty intensive and create some issues. If you're concerned, set it. High sensitive, it may give false positives, and that's true because it looks for things that look like they might be hacks but are common programming things. So use those at your knowing the risks. Performance options. Use low resource scanning. Now this is the one that you have to use when you are on a low resource server such as Bluehost or GoDaddy or somebody else. What it does is it limits the number of times, how long the scan can run, everything else. So this is kind of a iffy-winny kind of thing. Another one that's